In this particular lesson, I want to show you about keeping an anatomy sketchbook. Once you've gone through all the videos or a majority of the videos and you're learning about anatomy or you're studying anatomy on your own and you want to start practicing, what are some practical ways you can do that? And one of those, if you're on the road traveling or if you want to keep more sketchbooks, is to keep a sketchbook. And I thought I would show you what I do a little bit and then demo also give you some demonstrations too as well, give you some ideas, and you can kind of do your own thing. So again, what I use my sketchbook here, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then my fountain pen. This is just a Falcon, and it's it's one of the cheaper versions. Of course, it's got the cartridge on the inside where I can get the ink into that. And then I use for this one two different inks. I forget the sepia tone name of it. It's not really that important as long as they're water soluble. Make sure they're not India ink. And this is a Japanese brand, which is nice. It's kind of a soybean color, so it's kind of a dark maroon. Just be careful if you show somebody and you tilt it down to show them a label. Make sure that label is nice and tight, otherwise it's going to come on you a little bit. So I'll put these to the side and I'll show you. First we'll start out and I'll show you the sketchbook and then the drawings that I do, and then we'll start in on some demonstrations and then where you can get images as well. So these are all in ink pen. Now I just draw in ink exclusively. You could start sketching if you're not comfortable in ink, in graphite, and then work on these in ink, or you could use really any other material. I just like to use ink because it dries pretty quickly. I like the look of ink. So what you're noticing here is using an isolating subform body part anatomy. In this case, the forearm, the arm, working on the flexors, the extensors, triceps, etc. Drawing muscle, drawing the human, all together, flesh, fingers, etc., hands, and also bone at times as well. And I get these models from many different sources, Croquis Cafe or Art Historical Rubens here. The online Eckerge that I have, that I've showed you in the video. Just go back and look in the anatomy section, you'll see that. And then imagination too as well. And so all relevant points in between. And so just focusing on a page or two of maybe one area you want to work for the day or for the week. These are probably, each one's about 30-40 minutes in terms of a sketch. And so, feet, legs, lower leg, upper leg, buttock, area as we're working through the composition. And it's not necessarily for me about a finish, but about practice. So there's a shorthand sketching, value range that's going on within the composition. So feet, legs, and just various different positions. You could label and name the body parts as you do that. You could put them all together and draw the model without, breaking down the musculature. Draw from Michelangelo. So there are many different ways, I think, to approach this in terms of where you get your models, through art history, through live models, maybe yourself, and working on really the isolated body part and or parts to your composition. And I would say and argue that you could fill up as much of the space as possible. And it really is your own, and it's your way to reinforce the practice of anatomy. Because I'm going to tell you, I've been teaching anatomy for a while and studied it for a while in school and on my own, and you forget the names. You'll forget many of the names. You won't forget the forms, but your brain, your hand needs to reinforce your knowledge by constant practice over that. And the more you practice, the form comes back very quickly. Sometimes I forget where they insert or the origins a little bit, and I have to go back and look at my notes or my books and get the specifics to make sure I'm correct. But for the most part, it's all there. It's just the names from time to time that I'll remember, or little bits and pieces of the analytical part, the vocabulary part that I'm missing. So here drawing from, you can see I'm drawing from the model, the figure, and then the écorché, the flayed model, serratus anterior, rectus abdominis, oblique, pectorals, teres major and minor, those kinds of things from the posable digital écorché that I have the application for, or you could use, if you have the plaster model, you could use that. Many different positions, move and turn and draw from many different angles. So the more you feed your brain, your eye, the more you acquire that muscle memory knowledge that you really want and need to put this figure etched in your mind and your brain to get to a level of competency, and hopefully, if some of you want, to a level of also mastery as well. So most of these are in sepia tone, and then I turn at some point to, this is the ink, now the kind of the soybean Japanese red, if you will, or it could be even Chinese. And you could repeat the same pose to learn about it as well, and then I go a little bit longer. More feet and hands, just working on faces and whatever randomly I want to work on for that day or week. And here I take a little bit more time with the rendering, the hatching, and some cross hatching. So you note the kind of difference in the finish between here and something that's a little bit quicker sketched in without less of the tone, which is totally fine. You probably try to want to give all of them a little bit of a focal point as well, but you get the idea, I think, with the figuration. So here working mostly arms, a little bit of abdominals, forearms, triceps, and then full figure here, fingers, hands. These took a lot longer to render out, so I might work on these 30 minutes at a time, and then come back to them every other day. So depending on how much time to do some sketching. Sometimes I just sit down after dinner when I've got a little time, and I'll sketch a little bit just to keep fresh, and then just to keep memory moving with regard to anatomical kinds of details, feet, hands, and such. So kind of important way and means to continue the practice of the study of anatomy.